All right, y'all. So they start out on the final exam with a graph. So they want us to graph the function -4 minus x squared. Now, I would say if you wanted to put that in the right order, it would be -x squared minus 4. And knowing that, we know what these basic graphs are going to do. That -4 would be like it's at the end. Well, that's going to bring my graph down 4. And then we got that negative in front of the x squared. That's going to flip it over the x-axis. So y'all, let's just go graph it real quick. So I'll go to y equals. I had -4 minus x squared. And I just want to see the basic shape of it because they had 4 distinct pictures there. And y'all look, it flipped it over the x-axis and brought it down 4, okay? So now we would go to our graph, and the only one that's went down below, and I'll zoom the picture out here, is this number B, okay? So you click your B, and then you're going to move to the next question. All right, y'all, so I'll write this one down. So they're giving us the formula F of C. So remember, this is how you find the Fahrenheit temperature corresponding to the Celsius temperature. So that equals 9/5 C plus 32. So they want to find the Fahrenheit temperature equivalent to 20 degrees Celsius. So y'all, we'll go work that real quick on the paper. So they gave us a formula. They tell me what the Celsius temperature was. So that means we're finding F of 20. So that'll equal 9/5 times 20 plus 32. All right, so I'm just going to work it by hand, but you could punch it in the calculator at this point. Now, working this by hand, this 20 and 5, they will reduce because I can take that 20, divide by 5, and that's going to make that a 4 there. Okay. Now, what's left? I got 9 times 4, which is 36, plus my 32. And y'all adding them together, 36 and 32, I get what, 68. Okay, and this will now be in what, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Now these are multiple choice, remember, so we just got to find the one that matches our 68 there, and we would go with C on that one, okay? All right, then you're going to hit next. So y'all let me make this bigger, and I'm going to pull up my chat so y'all can answer this one. But is this graph right here the graph of a function? Yes or no? And y'all remember one thing on this, I would use the vertical line test. So, ooh, I got yeses and nos. So remember, if this is a function, a vertical line cannot intersect this graph more than once. Because remember, all these x values on this graph, if you look at the x value 4, well, it's got 2 different y values for it, remember? And we said that all the x's could only have one y value. So y'all, if a vertical line intersects it more than once, you got to put no on that one, okay? All right, vertical line can only intersect it once. If it intersects it 2 or more times, you're going to put no on that, okay? And y'all, I ain't gonna lie, every picture I've seen looks like this one, so save that answer, all right? All right, y'all, let me write this one down. Um, this is number 4 here. So I got x plus y plus z equals 7. X minus y plus 2z equals 7. 5x plus y plus z equals 11. Hey, y'all, I'm going to do this both ways. I'm going to work this one by hand because some of y'all actually like working them by hand like me. And then I'll do it on the calculator using my matrix stuff, okay? So first off, I'm going to do it by hand. So remember, I'm going to call this equation 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to name them 1, 2, and 3 so that you can keep up with what I'm doing on this. Now, y'all, I know what letter I'm going to eliminate. What would y'all pick? I'm just sort of curious. Would y'all eliminate the X's, the Y, or the Z? Because I see one right there that, whoo, we can add together really quick. And even that's the one I would pick. I would pick the Y because the first time I'm going to add row 1 and 2. That'll get rid of the Y. The next time I'm going to add row 2 and 3. That'll get rid of the Y. And y'all, I don't even have to change them because that's a positive and a negative, and then there's a negative and a positive. So watch this. We're going to add 1 and 2. So add 1 and 2 real quick, and then over here I'll add 2 and 3. So 1 and 2 was X plus Y plus Z equals 7. And then I got X minus Y plus 2Z equals 7. But Eve, a good job because look, them Y's are canceling. So let's see what's left. 1 and 1 give me 2 X's. 1 and 2 give me 3Z. And then 7 and 7 give me 14. So technically, this would be my 4th equation if I was going to keep up with them, okay? Now we said, so we use them two. So now you got to use the last row with either of the first two. So I just picked them two again because the negative and a positive y. So I'm going to add 2 and 3 this time. So y'all 2 was x minus y plus 2z equals 7. 3 was 5x plus y plus 1z equaled 11. Now y'all look at that. The y's cancel again. So 1 and 5 give me 6 x's. 2 and 1 give me 3z. And that's going to equal 7 and 11, which is 18. So technically that would be my 5th equation. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now I got 4 and 5. But now we're going to put 4 and 5 together and eliminate one of these variables. And that equaled 18. All right, so now we got 4 and 5 together. So really on this one, you can go 2 ways on it. You can get rid of the x's by multiplying this row probably by -3. That'd give you -6 and -6. You can eliminate the z by multiplying one of these rows by a negative, and then that'd give you a -3 and a +3. So y'all, many ways to go on this one. So I'll tell you what I'm actually going to do. Because the numbers on my first row are smaller than the second row. So I'm going to multiply the first equation by -1. That's going to make all these negative, and then that'll cancel them z's when I add them, okay? So I'm going to multiply the top equation by -1 and then add them. So you're going to get a -2x minus 3z. So you're just distributing that negative to everybody, and that'll equal the negative 14. This row I'm just going to bring down 6x plus 3z equal to 18. But y'all look at that. The z's are going to cancel. So now we're going to be left with one variable. Negative 2 and 6 give me 4x. And then negative 14 and 18 give me a positive 4. So y'all, we're about to get to x because we're going to divide both sides by 4 now. And I now know x is 1. So at that point, we're going to come up here to equation 4 or equation 5, plug the x in for the 1 in for the x. So these are smaller numbers. So I'm just going to back substitute. And I'll have 2 times 1 plus 3 times z has to equal 14. So you just got to back substitute in one of these two with the x's and z's. Once we know the z now, then we can go to one of these original 3, okay? All right, y'all, so let's see. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 3z equals 14. We're now going to subtract 2 from each side. And we get 3z equals, what's that, 12? And y'all, the last step, divide by 3. And that cancels, giving me a 1z is now equal to 4. So y'all, we know x is 1, z is 4. So we're going to back substitute for one more time. Because now I know 2 of the variables, I can find the last one. And y'all, I'm going to use this first equation right here, because these are just single variables. And I know my numbers. I had a 1 for x. I don't know the y yet, so I'm going to put a y in. I do know the z we got down here was 4. And all that has to equal that 7. So y'all, before I do anything, I'm going to add the like terms on the left side over here. So 1 and 4 give me 5 plus y equals 7. And then to finish this out, subtract my 5. And y'all, that brings my y equal to 2. So remember, x was 1, y was 2, and z was 4. Now, y'all, I will say this. It don't matter which variable you get rid of, you will get the same answer as I did, okay? I just sort of was looking at that and said, woo, them y's look really good, right? All right, so we know what we got by hand. Now, let me show you this on the calculator. So I'm going to go share my calculator. So let me get off the graphing. So first I got to put the matrix in. So I'm going to hit second x negative 1 to get that matrix. And we're going to go over to edit and hit enter. So now I had 3 rows. So I would have 3 inner. And I had 4 columns. And that'd be 4 inner. Now we're just putting in the numbers. I had 1x, that'd be 1 inner. 1y, 1 inner. 1z, 1 inner. And that equaled 7 inner. Second row, I had 1x minus y, so that'd be minus 1 inner, plus 2z, that'd be 2 inner, and then that equaled 7 inner. Last row, I had 5 x's, 1 y, 1 z, and that equaled 11 inner. All right, so remember, once we got the matrix all put in, we hit second mode to quit. Now is where we had to go back in and get the math operation. So we hit second, x negative 1, and we go to the math and highlight that. And then we're going to arrow down until we find R, R, E, F, and hit enter. So now we got the math operation on the screen. Now we got to go grab that matrix we edited a while ago. So hit second, x negative 1. And y'all, my number 1 is already highlighted with the 3x4 I just did. So I can just hit enter on that. So now once we hit enter, it will now do what we wanted math-wise to that matrix. And remember, the last column on the right, the 1 on top is the X is 1, the 2 is the Y, and then the 4 on bottom is the Z. So we got 1, 2, 4 by hand. We get 1, 2, 4 by calculator. So y'all, I'm assuming our answer is going to be C on that one, okay? So if you like doing them by hand, you can still check yourself by calculator if you want to, okay? All right, y'all, so that was the first 4. So look at this one. For the function represented in this graph, they want us to find the domain. So I'll make that bigger, and y'all look at your 4 choices, A, B, C, and D over here. Now, the thing y'all got to remember is the the domain is the X values. It's going to go from the smallest X value to the largest X value. So you got to find the X value of these 2 points. So the point on the left, if you go straight up, that looks like that would hit the X-axis at -1. Then I'm looking at the right point up here on the right end. If I come down to the X-axis, that is at 4. So that means my domain goes from -1 on the X-axis to a +4. So y'all, we would go with B on that one. So you just got to remember, the domain is your X's. The range would be your Y values, okay? All right, y'all, so let me write this one down. This is what, number 6? And they're giving us 4x plus 7y is greater than a -4. Now, y'all, I'll tell you this. Based on that inequality that they're giving me, there's only 2 possible answers that we can take at this point. Because remember, if it's a greater than, and it does not have an equals under it, would y'all pick one of the dashed line graphs, or would y'all pick one of the solid line graphs? I mean, just knowing that, we can eliminate 2 pictures off this. So Jackson, good job. We want a dashed line, so we know it's going to be either A or D on this one, okay? So y'all, I'm just going to go work it by hand. Now you can graph this on your calculator, but you still got to at least solve it for the Y first, okay? So remember, when we're solving these for Y, we're just going to move the 4x over here by subtracting. And then that cancels, giving me my 7y is greater than. So y'all, you can either put the x's first or the numbers. I'm used to doing the x's. So I'm just going to put -4x minus 4. You just can't add them together because they're not like terms, okay? Now, my next step would be to divide everybody by 7. Now, I do not flip that because I'm dividing by positive numbers, okay? All right, so mine's a little fractiony looking, so you can find numbers to plug into this if you want to and make you a table and solve this. But y'all, usually when I got a lot of fractions, I'm just going to go graph that on my calculator and get my points that way. So let me show you how I would do this on my calculator all the way through on this one, okay? See if y'all remember some of this stuff. So I'm going to clear out my y equals. So I'm just going to put that in there. Now, if you want it to look like a fraction, you would hit alpha y equals and then enter. And I had -4 on top over 7, arrow right, and put my x. And then it was minus, and then I could hit alpha y equals again and enter and put in my 4 and then my 7 on bottom. So -4/7 x minus 4/7. All right. Now, do y'all remember? Since mine was greater than, remember, the calculator will shade greater than for us if we go all the way left over here and highlight on the left side where mine's got the blue box. So if you hit enter there, remember it lets me shade in blue, but I'm going to arrow down to the line. So greater than, remember, I want that triangle like this one that's bigger on the top. And then I would come down and hit OK. So I'm going to get a basic look at the graph first, and then I'll show you how to find your 2 points on the table. So I hit enter. Now remember, we will have a dashed line. The calculator just won't do the dashes and the solid lines. It always makes them solid. But we see what's getting shaded. Looks like the top right part of my graph, okay? So now we need 2 points to plot on MATLAB. So I'm going to hit second graph. Oh no, y'all, this was actually multiple choice, so we don't have to graph it. I mean, we don't have to plot it by hand. So let me go back to my graph. And we know what the graph is going to look like right here. So let's just go to MATLAB. And remember, it's got to be dashed. So y'all, ours looks like A on that one. It's shaded above it. So D got shaded below, okay? So really on this one, if you realized that it was a dashed line and that greater than shades above, you could have went right to A and been done with it, right? Because A was a dashed line and it shaded above. All right, on number 7, a ladder is resting on a wall. So let me draw a wall here. And let me draw me a ladder resting upon it. The top of the ladder touches the wall at a height of 15 feet. So I know it's 15 feet on the right side on my wall. And then it says, find the length of the ladder if the length is 5 feet more than its distance from the wall. All righty, so let's go to my picture now. All right, so here it was touching 15 feet above on my wall. Here's where the ladder's touching. Then it says the ladder is 5 feet more than its distance from the wall. Well, here's its distance from the wall. So I'm just going to call that X. And y'all, if this is X, this side has to be X plus 5. So y'all, all of ours are going to sort of set up the same on this one. So this is where we had the right triangle stuff, and we were using the Pythagorean theorem. Okay. So C has to be the longest side. And then I'm just going to let this be A and B, okay? So A will be X, so I'll have X squared plus B, which is 15 squared, will equal my X plus 5 squared. So you better put that X plus 5 in parentheses on this one. So now let's start squaring everything. Well, this is just the X squared. 15 times 15 is 225. Now, the only thing I got to figure out on the side over here is what this X plus 5 squared will equal. All right, y'all, so you better write that twice, remember? And then FOIL it. X times X is X squared. X times 5 is 5X. 5 times X is 5X. And then 5 times 5 is 25. Add like terms, and we'll make that X squared plus 10X plus 25. So that's the right side. X squared plus 10X plus 25. So y'all, right off the bat, it looks like it's quadratic. So we would try to get everything on one side equal to 0. But y'all, this is the one where if you try to move these X squares to the same side, look at that. They're canceling everywhere. So on the latter one, the X squared's always canceled out. And I got my 225 is going to equal my 10X plus 25. All right, y'all, so it's no longer quadratic, so we don't have to worry about factoring. We just need to solve for the X. So let's move to 25, get the X's by themselves. So y'all, that's giving me what? 200 equal to 10X. All right, y'all, make that 10X a 1X. We'll divide by 10 on both sides. So y'all, let's see. That's giving me what, 20? Equal to my 1X. So here's the thing. We want to know how long is that ladder. Well, it's not 20. 20 is this area right here. So do not put this answer in as the ladder. You got to come back and add that 20 plus that 5 and get that ladder's length at 25, okay? All right, y'all, so let's go see if that's the answer on that. So now they'll put 20 there, but don't pick it. You got to pick 25 on that, okay? All right, then we check next problem. All right, number 8. On this one, we're finding the domain. We got f of x equals x minus 4 over x squared plus 8x. So y'all, we know what we're going to do, right? We're going to set the bottom of this equal to 0. So we're going to set that equal to 0. Because that's what we do when we find our domains, right? We set the bottom equal to 0. But y'all, here's my thing. So Nat, you got me a C. So how did you factor this? What did you factor this into? So that would be y'all's first step on that. Factor that little Good job. Good job. Y'all remember, when you got two terms like the x squared and the 8x, your first step is to see if they got a greatest common factor. So good job. And then set both of these factors equal to 0 and solve. And y'all, by now I'm hoping y'all see that anytime you factor out the variable, it always equals 0 for these, okay? And then on this one, we would just subtract 8. All right, so remember, they wanted this in interval notation, I believe, right? So we start at -infinity. We're cruising until we hit -8. We're going to union around -8. So it's got to be, well, C and D is the only ones at this point. But we got 0 for our second number to be kicked out. So from that -8, we go to 0, union around 0 to positive infinity. So C, somehow on D, they got a 4. So we don't know how they got a 4 on that. So we're going to pick C because we only excluded the -8 and the 0, okay? Oh, y'all, this might be one of the trickier questions on here. 7x squared plus 6x. So we're doing the difference quotient, f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. All righty, so hopefully y'all save notes on this one, and I'll show you where we're at in just a second. So this is where we had to find f of x plus h first. Well, f of x plus h means I'm putting the x plus h in for both of these x's. So you're going to have 7 times x plus h squared plus 6 times x plus h. So that was our first step. So what I would do to this first is figure out what the x plus h squared equals. So on the side, so I'm not going to foil this out again because y'all have already got this in your notes. But x plus h squared always factors into, always foils into x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. So y'all, that's the same as it's been since we done this problem in our notes. Anytime you get an x squared and you put an x plus h in there, it's going to foil into that. So you're going to have 7 times x squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus your 6 times x plus h. So the first step, all I did was bring that down. Now I'm going to distribute the 7 and then distribute my 6. So I get 7x squared. 7 and 2 give me 14hx. 7 times h squared is a 7h squared. Now do the 6. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times h is 6h. And y'all look at that. No like terms. So now I'm plugging everything into my formula since this does not simplify. My f of x plus h minus my f of x. We will divide all of that by h. All right, y'all, so let's plug in the stuff. 7x squared, 14hx, plus 7h squared, plus 6x, plus 6h, minus f of x here, which was 7x squared, plus 6x. Now, if y'all remember, everything on this top row that did not have a h is going to cancel out. 7x squared This is really a negative 7x squared. So y'all, those are canceling. What else don't have a? Oh, the 6x. It don't have an H. So the 6x and the negative 6x are going to cancel out. So remember, second parentheses always cancels out, okay? So now we got a 14hx plus a 7h squared plus a 6h or all over h. So y'all, here's what I want. I want to see if y'all can still remember how to simplify this. So y'all tell me my final answer. Okay, and Matt, I would even take that further. There you go. I would actually cancel all them H's out, that one on bottom and top that you factored out, so that your final answer would be what, the 14x. So good job. Plus 7h. Oh, Jackson, you lost one H in the middle there. And then my 6. Yeah, Jackson, watch out, because you got the right answer, and I think you just forgot your H in that one. So good job, y'all. Now, watch this. When you look at the answers, be careful on them, because sometimes, look, they drop stuff like y'all was trying to do. But y'all, looks like we got to go with B on that one, okay? And that matches y'all perfect. So then we would hit our next. All right, y'all. So this is just a graph. But remember, this is a square root graph. So this is the one that sort of goes uphill, left to right. So let me just think what y'all remember. Y'all remember if you was under the radicals and you were subtracting numbers from those x's, did it move me left or right? So that'd be like my x's were in the parentheses, right? And I'm subtracting from that x. That's the one that's sort of backwards. And when you subtract, you would actually move to the right. You know what I got? It ain't no way it's A because that's a straight line. There's no way it's B because there's not a negative out in front of that radical. So it's got to be C or D. So one of these actually moves to the right. Okay. But now we got a calculator, right? Now, y'all, if you want it to look exactly like their picture, you see the X's are going from negative 10 to 10, and the Y values are going from negative 5 to 5. So if I graph it on the calculator using their values, then I'll be able to know what to have. So what I got, a square root of 9x minus 8. So second x squared, and then I got 9x minus 8. Now, y'all look, I don't want it shading on mine no more, so I need to go left over there where that blue box is and hit enter. And I'm going to come back down here on the line and go left and get it back on that line, okay? And then I'm going to go down and hit enter. Okay. Now, remember, I'm going to set my window by hitting the window button because my Y's, so my X's were good, right? Wasn't it my Y's that went from negative 5 to 5, I think? Let me verify real quick. Yeah, so the Y values were the ones that were going from negative 5 to 5. Now that I got my window set, y'all watch this. Hit enter on graph. And look, it's the graph that moved right. So remember, when you subtract from them X's, it's going to move that graph right. C is to the left, so we need D where it looks a little bit to the right there, okay? So if you hit that little box with the arrow on it, it'll zoom the graphs out for you, okay? All right, so we're good on that one. All right, so I'm gonna let y'all do this one. You got four choices, A, B, C, D. They're giving you the maximum point. The first dot on the left is the maximum because it's on a hill. The second dot is the minimum because it's the point down in the valley. So those are what we called our relative mins and maxes. So first of all, let's play with that maximum. They're all starting with the maximum on the answers. So we just got to know what's the maximum value of that point and at what x value is that happening. That's a maximum y value of 1 and the x value is 0. So we want a maximum of 1 and an x at 0. So looks like we're looking at B and C for that. Well, B says it has a relative minimum of -3 at x equals 2. And C says there is no relative minimum. Well, y'all, I'm looking at a relative minimum on my point here. That second point on the right is definitely a minimum. And the y value for that minimum looks like -3. And if you go up, it's happening at 2 on the x-axis. So that eliminates C, and the only possible answer would be our B, okay? I'll tell you what happened on A, they just reversed it. They're calling the maximum the minimum and the minimum the maximum, okay? Oh. Hey, y'all, so that's all you're doing on that one is just picking out one of those four answer choices. All right, y'all, so this is on y'all. A, B, C, or D. You got f of x equals negative square root x plus 6. How can we obtain that from the graph of y equals square root of x? So is that plus 6 moving me left 6? Is it moving me right 6? And that's the only choices they got. It's either going left or right. And y'all, we know it's going to be left. Good job. So we're going 6 units to the left. So that's going to give us B or D. B or D, okay? A, you're not moving them -6 units. You're moving it 6 units left or right, okay? So eliminate the ones where they put them -6s and stuff like that. All right. It's either what we say, B or D. So the question is that negative in front reflecting me across the y-axis or the x-axis? So definitely going across the x-axis, y'all. So we have no choice but to pick D for that one, okay? Because we didn't even learn about the y-axis being reflected until we hit the exponential functions, remember? And it had to be the exponents that were negative to reflect it over that y-axis. All right, y'all, so number 13 here, find the zeros. All right, y'all, so I got what? F of x equals x squared minus 7x plus 1. And y'all, if you're looking at them four answers right there, when you see four answers like that, you know this ain't going to factor, okay? Because factoring does not give you answers like that. So I can't do square roots because it's got that x term in it. So y'all, I've only got one choice. How can I find the zeros of this? Well, we have a friend over here. we called the quadratic formula, remember? Negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A, B, and C are coming from your quadratic here. A is 1, B will be negative 7, and C will be 1. So A is in front of the x squared, B in front of the x, C is the constant number at the end. All right, y'all, so let's plug it all into this and see what we get. So negative B, which is negative 7, plus or minus. So y'all, it's really important that you put down the negative in the formula and then the negative for your number. You got to have them both. All right, B would be negative 7 squared. If you got a negative number and you're squaring it, you got to put it in parentheses also, okay? And then minus 4 times A, which is 1, and C, which is 1, all over 2 times my A, which was 1. Now, the two negatives will make that a positive 7 now. Plus or minus square root. All right, y'all, let's see what we get. Negative 7 squared. That'd be negative 7 times negative 7. You're going to get a 49. Now, all this stuff on the right side is getting multiplied together. So negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. And then all on the bottom, 2 times 1 is 2. So it looks like my next step is to figure out 49 minus 4 is 45. And then all that over 2. So the only way I could go further is if I can simplify that square root. So remember, to simplify a square root, it's got to be divisible by one of these perfect squares. And 49 is big enough because that's only a 45 under there. So the question is 45 divisible by any of these? Okay, so Nat, you're on the right. It is divisible by 9, so we would make that a 9 and a 5. And then the square root of 9 gave me a 3, and then my square root of 5. So remember, this is now the simplified form. So that's going to equal 7 plus or minus 3 square root of 5 all over my 2. Y'all, since the radical does not simplify any further, I cannot go any further because the 3 numbers on the outside, these 2 numbers will not divide by the 2 and make it any simpler, okay? So we're looking for this answer on that math lab. So y'all, let's see, we had what, a 7 plus 3 square root of 5 over 2. So y'all, the only one we could pick would be A on that one, okay? Oh, y'all, hold on. It's our break time, right? So let's see. We're on number 14, so we're getting there. So let me pause this and then stop my share. All right, y'all, listen. We're over halfway there. There's only 25 on this test, and we went through most of the longer problems already. So there's a few decent ones left, but it's not too bad. So I'm showing almost 10:52. So let's take a break till 11:02, and then we'll come back and knock out the rest of our final exam, okay? So y'all, I will see y'all in 10 minutes. Hey everybody, so we're picking up with number 14. So let me get our recording going and share my screen here. All right, y'all, so 14 just wants us to find the vertex. So we got what, x squared minus 20x plus 109. All right, so I'm gonna go work this by hand and then we'll see. We got 4 choices to pick out of on this, okay? So now remember my vertex formula was negative b over 2a and then f of that negative b over 2a. So I'll find my x value. Once I get my x value, I'm going to plug it in and get my y value, okay? So I'm going to get my x coordinate first by doing negative b over 2a. And y'all, the numbers are just like they are on the quad. A would be 1, b would be negative 20, and c would be 109. So here we go. Write that negative down. And then my b is a negative 20. And then 2 times my a, which is 1. All right, so that's going to make me a positive 20 over 2. And that'll give me a positive 10. So we know at the moment our x value is 10. So we'll put 10 in for the x's and get our y value. So we're finding f of 10 now. So that'll be 10 squared minus 20 times 10 plus 109. All right, y'all. Well, 10 times 10 is 100. Minus 20 times 10 is 200 plus my 109. So y'all, this right here is going to give me what? A negative 100 and a negative 100 plus 109 will give me a positive 9. So my vertex is the point 10, 9. So we're going to go find that. And y'all, 10, 9 would be B. Actually, if I knew my X value, I could have went to B without even doing the Y value because they only got one with a 10 in the front. So there you go on that one, huh? All right, y'all, what do we got? F of X equals negative 6x squared times x minus 9 times x plus 2 to the third. So look, they want the zeros and the multiplicities. Okay, so let's go back on that. The zeros are coming from these 3 variables here. So these are what's going to give me my zeros, those 3 x's. My multiplicities are these exponents. So remember, the x minus 9 don't have an exponent out here. So we would treat it like a 1. Okay? So this 0 will have multiplicity 2. The 0 in here, multiplicity 1. The 0 here, multiplicity 3. So basically, you're just setting everything equal to 0. And solving. Well, this single variable, guess what it's going to give me? Because I'm going to divide by that negative 6 on both sides. And that gives me my x. And y'all, the single x's still give you a 0. Now, the second factor, I'm going to add 9. I get x equals 9. And in the third factor, I'm going to subtract 2. And I get x is a negative 2. So the 0 has a multiplicity to 2. The 9 has a multiplicity 1. The negative 2 has a multiplicity 3. So let's go find that answer. All right, so we said 0 had, okay, so they're starting with -2. So for our -2, we had a multiplicity 3. So the first 3 got that one. Then they got 0 multiplicity 2. So we had that one. So that looks like A and B are still alive. So we got to look at this last 0. We had a 9 and it had a multiplicity 1. So we would go with B. A, they actually had 4 zeros for A. Figure that out, right? And then D had 3 zeros, but they didn't get the 0 when they put an extra 2 in there somehow. So just work that out, get your 3 zeros, their multiplicities, and then pick the right choice, okay? All right, I'm going to graph this one. Now look, the x's go from -6 to 6. The y values go from -240 to 240. So I'm actually going to graph this one and then set my window to match their window, okay? So y'all, here we go. We're going to go to y equals on our calculator. All right, I'm going to clear that out. So I had -x, and in parentheses, x plus 4 squared, and then parentheses, x minus 1 squared. Now I'm going to go to my window. My window's probably still set on them -5s and stuff. So this was -6 to 6 for the x's. So punch in -6 for minimum, 6 for maximum. Come down on the y's, and those went from -240 for your minimum, and then down to a positive 240. Now, since my window is now set like the answers when I hit graph, you can see my picture sort of comes down, touches that -4, goes up a little bit, then cuts through to 0 there. So let's look at the 4 pictures we got. So y'all, I really think it looks like A here, right? Sort of came down, touched it -4, went up, sort of went down through to 0, and then it starts going downhill on the right side. So I would pick B on that one and move on, okay? Look at C, they got the right side's dipping down and not the left side doing that dipping up and stuff. So just find your picture on there and then go to next. All right, 17, vertical asymptote. And we're given f of x equals x minus 6 over x squared plus 7x. So y'all, this one's just like a domain problem. You're going to set the bottom equal to 0. And then those two answers will give you your 2 vertical asymptotes. Okay? So A, B, C, or D on that one. Oh, y'all, let me pull my chat up. I'm not seeing it. Where'd it go? Okay. All right, so A, B, C, or D for that one, y'all. What's my vertical asymptotes? And really, you got an x squared down there. So remember that exponent 2 telling you better have 2 asymptotes on this one. And then it'd be B, right? So y'all, let me just show you what she did real quick. Since y'all are giving me B's now. So you take that x squared plus 7x, set it equal to 0. And this is another one where you had to factor out an x, and then you got an x plus 7. And y'all, here you go. Set both these equal to 0. Just got to remember, when they're in factored form, those signs are opposite than what we need, okay? So you actually got to solve it all the way out and get me a -7 on that, okay? So y'all's is going to have two answers like mine because you're going to have an x squared down there like I did, okay? All right, y'all, so let me write this one down. So this is the compositions. So what do I got? F of x equals 8x minus 2. G of x equals 7x squared minus 6x minus 7. We're going to find F compose G of -7. Woo, so here we go. So remember the compositions, F compose G of -7 is just like F of G of that -7. We find G of -7 first. Once we figure out what G of -7 is, we'll put that answer into the F. So first, G of -7. So that's going to be 7 times -7 squared minus 6 times -7. And then at the end, -7. So I put my -7 in for these two x's. All right, y'all, I'm going to let my calculator do that because we're going to get big numbers here. That's going to be 49, and then 49 times 7. That's a pretty big number there. So let me just let that calculator help us. So let me quit my graphing screen, clear everything out. And I had 7 parentheses, -7, close parentheses, and square it, minus 6 times -7, close parentheses, and then -7. So y'all, we're going to hit enter, and G of -7 equals 378. So now we're going to go back to our paper. Since G of -7 equals 378, we now need to find F of 378. Woo, y'all, that's a big number here because look, I got 8 times 378 minus 2. All right, so guess who's multiplying that is our calculator again. So let me go back to that. So I had 8 times 378, close parentheses, minus 2. So y'all, let's see what we get. We end up with 3,022. Final answer. So just remember, on your compositions, you start with the G of -7 and then put that answer into your F. And y'all, that one you can tell if you make a mistake, you can tell because those are 4 distinct answers there, okay? Now, here's the difference on 19. On 19, I'm giving you f of x, 4x squared, plus 5x, plus 4. I'm giving you g of x, 5x minus 7. I want to find g compose f of x. So y'all notice this one don't have a number to put into it. So all we're going to be able to do to this one is simplify this, okay? So this is like g of f of x. So this means you take the whole f of x function and you're going to put it into the g. So we're going to take this whole f function here and we're going to put it in for that one x, okay? So g composed f of x is going to be 5 times x. Well, x is now 4x squared plus 5x plus 4. So all of that went in for x, and then I got minus 7. So it still looks like g, 5x minus 7, okay? So y'all, it's a matter of distributing your 5 through the parentheses so that we get a 20x squared plus a 25x plus a 20 and then minus 7. You know, if you notice, all I can do is add those like terms. So I get my 20x squared, my 25x, and then let's see, 20 minus 7, that's what 13. Final answer. So look, 18, you can put a number in, and they're doing the F of G order. 19, you cannot put a number in because of the X, and they're doing the G of F order, okay? All right, so let's see. We need 20x squared, 25x, and a 13. So let's see. So y'all, that'd be B there, okay? Now they do got this answer. The way they got this answer, instead of doing 20 minus 7 to get 13, they added the 20 and the 7 and got a 27. So they got the mistakes that you make by adding instead of subtracting and stuff. Notice they got them answers also, okay? So be careful. All right, y'all, I got f of x equals 3x to the third plus 5. So if it's 1 to 1, find a formula for the inverse. Guess what? Y'all listen. On number 20, if you put it's not 1 to 1, you're going to miss it. Everybody's number 20 will be 1 to 1. So you will have to find the inverse of your function no matter what. So y'all listen, if you put not 1 to 1 on that answer, you're going to miss it, okay? So let's think about this. We're finding the inverse of this function. So the first thing I have to do is replace the f of x with a y. So I get y equals 3x to the third plus 5. And we know f of x and y, they're the same thing these days. But my next question would be, what's my next step to this problem if I want to find the inverse function? What would y'all do next? I also want to give y'all a little clue. I'm going to switch the x and the y. Remember, when you do inverses, we're going to switch that x and y so that we get x equals 3y cubed plus 5. So remember, you're switching the letter only, not the exponents and the other numbers. We're just swapping out that x and y here, okay? All right, y'all, we're going to solve this. So the first step, we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So here, let me just say we swapped X and Y, okay? All right, so now we're just going to start solving it. So I get my X minus 5 over here equals my 3Y cubed. Those sort of canceled on that side. Next step I would do, divide both sides by 3. So those 3's are going to cancel, and that's just going to be a Y cubed on that side now. And that's going to equal to X minus 5 over 3. So my question would be, how can I turn this Y cubed into just a Y? What would my next step be to bring this down as just a Y? There you go. I'm going to do the cube roots, y'all. And I'm going to do a cube root to both sides. And y'all, let's see. So Natalie, you got it right because you got the X minus 5 over 3. We cannot do anything to that. So that's going to stay just like we got it. Good job. But this cube root cancels with that exponent, leaving our Y. Now, the last step, MATLAB will put the F-1 notation, remember, for inverses. Since it's the inverse function, MATLAB will put the F-1. So they got the F-1 of X, and we had X minus 5 over 3 having the cube root. So we're going with A. Now, y'all, C is close, but remember, that -5 has to be under that radical because it was on top of that fraction. Okay? So it's got to be A where everything was under that cube root. And it looks like D, they added instead of subtracted, okay? All right, y'all, so we got 4 to the X plus 3. We know the exponential graphs sort of go uphill left to right. We know that plus 3 is going to move it up. So the only one going uphill left to right that went up looks like A, looks like B went down. But y'all, we can graph this real quick. And that's 12 and 12, -12 and 12. That's pretty close to a 10 by 10. So I'm just going to go to the calculator and I'm going to show you how to set your window back real quick. So I'm going to set my window back to -10 and 10. Because I want my graphs to be really close to theirs. And then this sets it back to the normal graphing window on it, okay? So I got -10 and 10 again. Now, y'all, there's a quick way you can make it reset. If you'll hit this zoom button and you go down to number 6 where it says standard. Whoops. Number 6 where it says standard at right here. If you hit enter on that, it puts it back at a 10 by 10 graph, okay? All right, so let's put in our problem. What was it? 4 to the X plus 3, I think. Yeah, 4 to the X plus 3. So I got my 4, arrow up for your exponent, put in your X, arrow down, and then put in your plus 3. All right, y'all, so here we go. See how it's going left to right? It goes uphill, and then it raised it up. Those 3 units. Remember, they usually cross at 1, but that's now crossing over at 4. So it moved it up those 4 units. And y'all, there's only one graph even close to that. And look at that. That's going to be my A right here, okay? B went down. C's the wrong picture. C and D would be if you had fractions. Remember, the fractions went downhill left to right, but A and B were the only two choices for that problem, okay? All right, y'all look at this number 22. They want to convert that to a logarithmic equation. So, A, B, C, or D? So it looks like I'm getting some C's on that one. So y'all let me write this down. What was it? E to the third equaled 20.0793. And I'm looking at the answers. They're leaving them as a log base E instead of doing the LN stuff on it. So we don't have to rewrite it as the LN on this one, it looks like. But remember, my first step is to write log. Figure out what the base of the log is. Well, the base of the log is the same as the base of the exponential. So that'll be the E. Then I would write the result. Well, the result is the 20.0793. And then the log equals the exponent. Well, y'all, the exponent was a 3. So Nat, I think that's what you had there. The only thing, so C is definitely it. And all they did on C, they just put the exponent first and then the log. Okay? But y'all sides don't matter as long as they're still equal like this, okay? All right, so good job. So once we started doing those, we got into expressing as sums and differences. All right, y'all. So let me see. This is what, 23? All right, y'all. I got a log base B square root x6y squared over a z to the 7th. All right, y'all. So the first thing you got to do is get rid of this radical. So I'm going to have a log b. So all this stuff under the radical will be affected by this radical. Now, if I'm going to change this from a radical to a fractional exponent, what exponent would this radical give me? A 1/2. Good job. Y'all remember, it's got to have a 1 on top when you put it outside parentheses like this. And if there's not a number shown in the notch, you got to treat it like a square root and make that a 2. So your next step was to distribute the 1/2 times all the exponents on the inside. So for the x, 6 times 1/2 is 3. For the y, 2 times 1/2. Well, y'all, half of 2 is 1. And then on the bottom, I got my z. 7 times 1/2. I can't reduce. So that's going to be 7/2. So now you're going to write them as sums or differences. All the factors on top are positive. The factors on bottom, we subtract. And we got to distribute log b to all 3 of these. So we got log b of x to the 3rd plus log b of y. Now the other factors on bottom, it gets subtracted. So that'll be minus log b of z to the 7/2. So what was the next step? After this, what would y'all do next? And then I'm going to be checking on that B after we do this next step. And y'all let's see, our last step, put them exponents down. Good job. So I get a 3 log b of x. Well, there's no exponent here other than a 1, so I'm going to leave that a log b of y. And then minus, I would bring the 7/2 down, and log b of z. All right, y'all, nothing else I can do to that. So let's go see. We're looking for, let's see, that we said b on that one. So 3 log b of x, log b of y, minus 7/2, log b of z. Good job. Looks like they got the signs wrong on the first one, and see, they did multiplication in between them. Look, y'all, that thing almost looks the same, except that's a multiplication, and then they're dividing by the 7/2. So be careful on those, okay? Oh, y'all, this would have been from 9/7, 3,200 e to the negative 0.03 t. So this is the landfill problem we had in our homework. So since that's a negative 0.03 t, that means it's a decay type problem, which means the landfill is going to have less acreage over time, okay? Now they're telling me t equals 10 years. So all we're doing to this basically on this problem, we're just plugging this 10 in for that t, okay? So we'll have our 3,200 e to the negative 0.03 times our 10 years. Okay, so I'm just going to plug that into my calculator and see what we get. So let's see it. A on this one, y'all. So let me go back and catch up. 3,200 e, so second ln, because I want that exponent. Negative 0.03 times 10. All right, remember they rounded them up to the nearest acre. So that 0, I got a 6 after the decimal. So I'm going to turn that 0 into a 1. So I need 2371. And y'all look at that. That is definitely A on that one. Good job. So y'all should do good on my final knocking these answers out like that, okay? So y'all, we got one more to go. Oh, and look at this one. It's an equation. So for 25, they want us to solve 3 to the 12 minus 2x equals 6,561. Now y'all look here. You see how these 4 answers, none of these have decimal answers? So since none of these answers have decimal answers, that tells me they did not solve this one by doing the ln and the log stuff to each side. That tells me that they were able to rewrite 6,561 using a 3 as the base. Okay, so if you look at this answer and they're all integer numbers that do not have decimals, then you know you're going to be able to rewrite that right side. So the question is, how many times do I got to multiply this 3 times itself to equal 6,561? So Natalie, that was 8 on that one. And y'all watch this. If we do 3 to the exponent of 8, we get 6,561. Good job. So you could have just started out doing 3 times 3 times 3. Just count how many times you're doing that until you get to that 6,000, okay? All righty, so we had 3 to the 12 minus 2x equals 3 to the 8. So y'all, here you go, the bases match. So since the bases match, and y'all might get big numbers like I did on this. Just depends on how nice you are to math lab, I guess. But it will be able to be rewritten using the same base. So since bases match, that means 12 minus 2x has to equal 8. The exponent's got to be the same if these two sides are going to be equal, okay? All right, y'all, let's solve this. Subtract 12, get the x's by themselves. I get negative 2x equals a negative 4. And then divide by that negative 2. All right, also negative 2's cancel. Uh-oh, over here, negative divided by negative is going to make that a positive 2. So if you put a 2 in there, that gives you 4. 12 minus 4 is 8. And 3 to the 8th does equal 6,561. Okay? So y'all, that's a trick on that one. Um, let's see what we got on that. So when we get a positive 2, so we would go B on that. Oh, here comes the timer. So then you hit that submit. And y'all, there you go. So final exam is the same 25 type questions. All they're going to change is those values. So remember, do the review because that counts as a quiz grade. That's going to get you really ready for that final. And then knock out that final exam, okay? Now, like I said, if your lowest test score is lower than the final exam, I will switch it out with the same score as the final exam, okay? Also, I'm going to drop 1 low quiz and 2 of your lowest homeworks, okay? So your grades should go up after you get everything submitted to me. But y'all remember this. The final exam is due by tomorrow night at midnight, okay? After midnight, Math Lab is going to shut down. So Eva, the final exam is 20% of your grade. Um, so it's got a little power. But remember, most of y'all are in a good position that some of y'all could do bad and still probably make an A in my class, okay? I know there's some of y'all that can make like a 50% and still get a 90% out of this class. So, yeah. All right, so let me quit my recording so I can send this out later.